I solemnly swear that I am up to no good.
Hey everybody, welcome to episode 17 of the Tales from Godric's Hollow podcast. We're recording this on a Monday evening, October 24th, 2016. We are on chapters 11 and 12 of Harry Potter and the Chamber of Secrets. Ooh, scary. Just in time for Halloween, oddly enough. I am one of your co-hosts and the reigning supreme muggle of this podcast, Josh Brown. I am joined, as always, by my wonderful co-host, the professor himself, Matt Sonnenberg.
How are we doing tonight, Josh?
Fantastic, Matt. We have
That's good.
We have lots to talk about tonight.
We do.
Yeah. These were some interesting chapters. I just want to say that up front. A lot happened. A lot happened to take in and try to process emotionally and just mentally trying to start figuring stuff out. And
oh yeah, they start to unravel a few pieces of the puzzle for you.
Yeah.
Start, but don't give me too much. So.
Sure. I feel like I did in the first book when things started to kind of work themselves out and I started to kind of figure out where it was going towards. And I don't think I'm quite there yet in this book, but I could see the seeds that are getting planted.
Sure.
And that's exciting. So, yeah. 2 chapters. Fantastic. We're definitely going to have some things to talk about. Some frustrating things, some hilarious things, and just a whole wide spectrum of emotions in these 2 chapters, I will say. But first, I want to say thank you to everybody that gave us feedback on our Butterbeer Banter episode last week. It's hard to believe that it was only a week ago that we did that.
Very true. That seems like so long ago.
Yeah. But... people seem to like it. It was fun to do. It was definitely something different for us, and it allowed us to talk about something that was Harry Potter related that didn't quite fit into the podcast per se, but something I was excited to talk about because it was Harry Potter content that I was allowed to ingest and consume and love because everything I want to get my hands on, Matt, you prevent me from doing so.
Yep.
So
as we've discussed, though, that's your own fault. So
it is. But every little tiny morsel, every tiny little crumb of content that you give me the green light on, I just completely devour it. And turns out I want to talk about it afterwards. So, Butterbeer Banter, we did round 1 last week. We don't have a set schedule for those. They're kind of just going to pop up as we see fit when things happen. I kind of foresee us definitely doing one for Fantastic Beasts movie when that releases.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
I think that's probably deserving of its own episode. Once, of course, you give me the green light to watch it. Because, Matt, I am scared to death that you're going to come back and say, Josh, I'm sorry, this is not going to work out.
I was not worried about it at all until they gave us more details on the movie and where like the series was going.
Yeah,
like it ties in more to the original Harry Potter than anyone thought at first.
Sure.
So yeah, it's questionable at the moment.
And there's a chance that it's just going to have a whole bunch of references that Harry Potter fans that have already watched all the movies or read all the books or both will understand and get and immediately have a connection to that's just going to go completely over my head, right?
Yeah.
There's that great possibility.
Yeah, and those are the kind of references that I'm getting very used to as I start evaluating all this. Like, I've never had to try to figure out, like, okay, is this Harry Potter content or this Harry Potter related content even going to spoil someone's first read through the like No, they're not thinking about that when they're creating this content. They're saying, hey, we have these raving fans. They want more. We're gonna, do everything we can to please them and throw in references here and there that they'll love, and these Easter eggs that they'll find and they'll enjoy. And yeah, they're not thinking about spoiling it for anybody at this point. So
I mean, this franchise has been around for almost 20 years now, right?
yeah.
So
Yeah.
I mean, I'm one of the last people to jump on this this hype train. But it's my own fault. But it's just a shame that I love everything so much and I want to consume everything because it's gonna be the downfall of me, Matt. I'm afraid I'm just gonna break one of these days and like I'll be scrolling through HBO, looking through movies, and one of the future Harry Potter movies pops up, and it's like I could easily just push that button right now, and like it's the content is just everywhere, Matt. It's impossible to avoid.
It's amazing you've done it this long.
I was walking through the store the other day, no lie, and I saw just out of the corner of my eye, those adult coloring books that they have that very intricate details and designs.
Something I guess I'm surprised that it's a thing, or I'm surprised it's taken this long to become a thing.
Sure.
But adult coloring books, okay, yes.
Fantastic. Great way to relieve stress and just kind of zone out and feel...
So I hear. Coloring was never really... I don't consider myself that artistic in the first place.
Sure.
So just taking the time to color was never really...
Well, that's a beautiful thing about coloring books, Matt, is the lines are already there. You're just filling them.
Yeah. I've always wished I could draw.
Yeah, I get that. You could always trace from coloring books and make it feel like you're drawing.
It's not the same.
No, it's not. But yeah, adult coloring books, they make you feel like you're just kind of zoning out and relaxing and just detoxing from the world around you, but not doing so in like a Little Mermaid coloring book that's meant for like 4-year-olds, Anyway, I was walking through the store, this bookshelf, it was like on an end cap, caught my eye of these adult coloring books, and I looked at them, and it's just a whole shelf of various Harry Potter related adult coloring books. There was one regarding Fantastic Beasts. There was one about like places and locations within the wizarding world.
Sure.
All these different ones, and I picked one up. I picked up the Fantastic Beasts ones. I'm like, okay, there's some really cool animals in here. No idea. I mean, I've seen the trailer for Fantastic Beasts. All kinds of animals in there that I have no idea about, right? And then, like, I picked up the location one, and I started to flip through it, and I stopped myself. And I was like, this is a bad idea, because I could quite possibly spoil something with a coloring book.
Oh yeah,
that's where I'm at, Matt.
The Fantastic Beasts one, I'm sure would be fine. I was kind of wondering what the themes of these books were, because like if they went just like, oh, this is the Chamber of Secrets coloring book, and they take you through the plot like in 12 pictures or something.
No, it didn't look like they were based on the books. It was more just different aspects of the world that was created.
Sure. Yeah, and like locations makes a lot more sense. There are a bunch of locations that would be very memorable, and that would require different pictures or coloring schemes, and like it makes sense. Yeah, I can see that book in my head now,
right?
Even though I haven't actually seen it.
Yeah,
but yeah, I still kind of doubt that would ruin anything for you. But
I can't take that chance.
I appreciate the thought, yes.
And that's my problem, is I can't even take chances without knowing for sure, because I'm trying to stay genuine for this podcast's sake, and it's increasingly harder by the day. Anything, if I type in Harry Potter on Google, Matt, there's a good chance something's going to get ruined for me.
Very true.
Last week, Ollie Moss, he's an artist, he did the graphical design and artwork for the game Firewatch that came out earlier this year.
Okay.
Very talented artist. He worked with the Pottermore website to create these posters, 7 different posters based on the 7 different books. I tweeted about it from the account. Right?
Yeah, I did see that. Yeah,
fantastic art. Like, I was looking at them, I'm like, I could see those hanging in my house. And then out of nowhere, I'm looking at them and I'm like, why is there a deer standing there for this book? What's important about that deer? Why is there a green light coming from Hogwarts? What's important about that green light? And I start over analyzing these simple, basic pictures of, like, kind of the general theme for the books, I'm assuming. And because, like, the first one is Hagrid and Harry holding hands, like, walking towards Hogwarts, because, like, that's the beginning. And the second one has the flying car flying towards Hogwarts. And
yep.
So then I'm like, what's significant about these other ones? And I start thinking about it, and I get in my own head, and I feel like I can't even look at art anymore without possibly spoiling something, because I'm the last stupid person on this earth that has never seen or read these books. So all the content's out there for everybody to enjoy, because everybody knows about this stuff. And then here I am trying to just walk around with blinders on, and the more Harry Potter stuff that starts coming out, you know, with games and movies and everything else, like, the whole fan appreciation is kind of coming back at full strength. So all this stuff is bubbling up out of nowhere, which is perfect for all the fans, because everybody's all excited again about the franchise. But for me, it sucks.
I can only imagine, and I'm glad. Honestly, I'm glad I'm on this side of it, but we'll get you there.
Hurry up, because I feel like I'm just one bad day away from just binge watching the entire series. You know, just buying some ice cream and sitting down, taking a day off, and just watching the whole thing.
Oh yeah,
that's how close I am, Matt. I'm on edge.
I know the feeling. We'll have to put Val on Potter Watch.
No, because she'll sit there occasionally. She's like, I really want to watch Harry Potter. I'm like, I really want to too. You're not helping the situation. We could watch the first movie 28 times, but we can't go farther than that. And she gets all bummed. So I'm going to break. I feel it. I'm trying not to. I'm doing my best. I can only do so much, Matt.
Well, then we better get going.
We could
keep moving forward.
We have to. With that being said, Matt, before we move forward, we do have to go back to last week.
All right.
Yeah,
One step backwards.
I know. 1 step backwards, 2 steps ahead. This is where we're going. We can't break the cycle now. It would be heartbreaking for anybody that missed last week's episode to wonder, what happened? What's going on? I need to know. Where am I going to find this information? Don't worry, folks. I got you covered with my weekly recap of last week's episode. Last week, we covered chapters 9 and 10. Chapter 9 was the writing on the wall. First and foremost, Lockhart, total creep. Everywhere you go, everywhere you look, Lockhart's everywhere. The chapter started off with just him, just in the middle of everything. We had a dead cat, Mrs. Norris, who turned out wasn't dead. She's just petrified. Filch, of course, is blaming Harry Potter for no real reason other than he was just there. Harry doesn't look like an animal murderer to me, but what do I know? Snape doesn't like Lockhart. We established that. Or he thinks he doesn't appreciate Lockhart trying to impress others with things he may or may not know. When I say may not know, definitely does not know.
Yes.
So he's not going to take any of his nonsense. So high five to my guy Snape for shutting that down quickly.
Yes.
But then we learned the definition of a squib.
We did.
And we learned that our friend Filch is a squib, and that is a person who is born by not Muggle parents, by
Wizard parents.
Wizard parents. Magical is the word I was looking for. Magical parents, who does not have magic themselves.
Yeah,
and that's why he was trying to use the quick spell infomercial to learn how to do some magic, because he feels like, in his old age. I don't know how old the guy is. 40s, 50s. I don't know how that works. He should be able to use magic because both of his parents were magic. And
it is very rare.
Right.
Like squibs are very rare.
Yes.
They make a point of that. This is not something that it happens in 1 out of every 10 kids.
Right.
It's very odd for this to happen when you have 2 magical parents and the kid doesn't have magic.
Sure. But he is super embarrassed by it, obviously. Yeah. I mean, he works at a school for wizards, when all these bratty kids are running around doing all this kind of crazy magic, with no rhyme or reason as to what the spells are doing sometimes, and he's just wishing he could do something, anything. Pull a bunny out of a hat type of magic. He doesn't care. He'll take anything at this point. So we learned about that. Interesting little dynamic to the wizarding world for sure. We learned more about Professor Binns, which was fantastic because we met Professor Binns in the first book, but briefly. But we got more accurate encounter with him in this book. He woke up one day. He was a professor at Hogwarts. He woke up one day dead, and his ghost just kind of got up and went to class as normal. Didn't realize he was dead. And from what anybody knows, he just carries on about his life as a dead professor, as a ghost, and he doesn't realize it. So he's also super boring. None of his students really are engaged in his class ever. And that is until our friend Hermione Granger raises her hand in Professor Binns' class, possibly for the first time ever in a Professor Binns class.
Yep.
And she wants to know about the Chamber of Secrets, because she doesn't have her textbook about the history of Hogwarts with her, because she had to shove all of her books from Professor Lockhart in her chest to bring to Hogwarts, and she had to leave that one behind, so she didn't have anything to reference it. So she asked Professor Binns, who's the history teacher, and he's not sure what's going on. He's like, why are you asking about that? That's not really my cup of tea here. But he's so happy that somebody's at least awake in his class that I kind of feel like he would have answered anything if she would have asked him. Like he was just happy to talk to somebody, not at somebody. We found out that the Slytherin house was, we learned how all 4 houses were previous people that came together to create the Hogwarts school at one point. Don't ask me what their names are. There was some crazy alliteration going on.
Absolutely.
Let's see. Was it Greg Gryffindor?
Nope.
Godric. Godric, Gryffindor, Harry Hufflepuff, Henry Hufflepuff, Helena. Nope, didn't remember that one.
Or Helga, sorry.
Helga Hufflepuff. Where'd Helena come from?
Yeah, I'm off.
Whew. Threw me for a loop there.
It's Hufflepuff.
Sure. Yeah. That's kind of how I feel about Ravenclaw. Renee? Regina? Rowena.
That's surprisingly close.
And Servius?
Salazar.
Where did Servius come from?
Severus.
Snape. Ah, there we go. Another alliteration.
Yes.
So we learned about them a little bit. We learned that the Slytherin house left Hogwarts at one point because they're just like, we're dark magic. We don't need this school. School's stupid. We learned about the heir of Slytherin, which is in relation to the Chamber of Secrets. Not really sure what's going on there. We also talked a little bit about spiders. When I say a little bit, I mean far too much for my own liking. So we're just going to move right past that. Yeah, that was pretty much the chapter. We got reintroduced Myrtle. Moni Myrtle was back. She's going to be a reoccurring character in this book. She wasn't just a one-time thing at the Death Day celebration. So I appreciate that much. Moved into chapter 10, which was the Rogue Bludger. And starts off with Harry doing reenactments with Lockhart about his crazy adventures because Lockhart's too afraid to actually do anything in class with animals or creatures because goodness knows we all know that he can't control them at all.
Yep.
Because he doesn't know what he's doing. Then we started learning about this was the Polyjuice potion, right?
Yes.
That took a month to make.
Yep.
We don't know. We got the ingredients list. We know it takes a month. We know it essentially will transform somebody into somebody else for a short amount of time. It's a pretty serious potion we're talking about.
Yeah.
Like, as far as potions are concerned, the ingredients that go into this were definitely difficult to obtain.
To say the least, yeah.
So they put that on, that's the plan of action going forward because they want to know more about the Chamber of Secrets. They want to know about the heir of Slytherin, who that is, who it could be. They assume it's Draco Malfoy, but they want to know for sure.
Yep.
Let's see. Oh, then we got into a Quidditch match.
Of course.
Right? Because it's been a while since we had a good old Quidditch match to talk about. And we had a bludger flying around, just locked on to Harry Potter the entire match. Just going after him. Just nonstop. Broke his arm. Harry Potter ended up catching the Golden Snitch and winning the match. This was against Slytherin, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. Yeah. All fine Danny, Harry Potter has a broken arm. It's kind of expected in Quidditch. It's a very violent sport, despite what you may think about it. Trust me, I know. And then our friend Lockhart decides to come and help everybody. He wants to help Harry and his broken arm. And he doesn't really help, does he?
No. I was really hoping you put air quotes around that help.
Help. Oh yeah. He thinks he's helping. I think.
Yes.
I don't even know how dense he actually is. Like, I don't know if he knows how stupid he is.
We'll get into that in some of these chapters coming up here. I
can't tell. Like, at some points it's like he's just pretending because he knows he's a fraud. But then other times it's just he's that oblivious to the fact that he doesn't know what he's doing. And that is even more irritating. So he ends up deboning Harry Potter's arm, essentially. So he just has this loose bag of skin and muscle tissue just hanging off of his body with no bones to hold it up. Poor Harry. Gets taken to the medical wing, and that is when our friend Dobby returns.
He does.
Out of nowhere, Dobby's been gone for a while. He makes his triumphant return. He's just as sympathetic and insane as he was at the beginning of the book. You don't really know how to emotionally grasp the fact that he is back. Turns out he was the one trying to keep Harry away from Hogwarts by closing the door at the platform, the train station. He was the one that cursed the bludger to take down Harry during the Quidditch match. He's being very aggressive with Harry, and he knows he's in trouble for it. But at the same time, he keeps insisting that he's doing it to protect Mr. Potter. And don't really know what's going on there. But poof, he's gone. He's out again. But before the chapter is over, Our photographer friend Colin gets brought into the nursing wing also, and he is now petrified.
Yes.
Dun, dun, dun.
And that, I believe, brings us up to chapter 11.
Yeah.
So we have chapter 11, The Dueling Club. And regardless of what I told you in the past couple weeks, we are going to introduce some new characters yet.
Ooh.
And some of them are worth noting. So we have Ernie Macmillan. He is a Hufflepuff that we meet. He is first referenced in the chapter just as Macmillan. Later on, we find out his first name is Ernie. Along the same time, we just find out he's Macmillan. There's also mention of a Miss Fawcett, who is also a Hufflepuff. We don't get a first name, but someone else that's there. And then later on, we run into Professor Sinistra, who teaches astronomy.
Right.
Yep.
I'm curious about that professor. It seems unusual to be introduced to a new professor this late in the ballgame, you know?
Yep. I totally understand. But I mean, it's one of those. We're following Harry Potter. We're following Harry Potter's story, and I mean, I don't know how big your high school was or how your relationship was with your high school, but that's kind of where I go to. Well, you could probably go to college too. College might even be a better example, but there could be a teacher who teaches a subject that you're not taking that you never meet until you take that class.
Sure.
And so there's very real possibility that Harry never ran into him.
Right. Yeah.
I mean, other than the fact that you kind of assume that when they're at the meals, especially the big feasts and everything, and they have the teacher's table up front,
Never
at least, see him up there. But I guess, I mean, if they're not an integral part of the story, Harry's not going to care about him necessarily. He doesn't necessarily look evil like Snape does. Or,
well, do all the teachers sit up there? Is that a given?
I guess it's not a given, but it kind of feels that way. I mean, like even Hagrid was up there.
That's true.
Hagrid's up at the table.
Yeah, but Dumbledore loves Hagrid.
Yeah, but it's not just like it's Dumbledore and the four heads of house.
Sure.
There are more teachers up there than that. You're right. You would think that they all be up there, but maybe not.
And it's just kind of things that, like, this is what makes me so interested in the normal day-to-day activities of Hogwarts. Like, I feel like there's tons of other classes going on that we have no idea about because they're not a part of the story, you know?
They're not classes first years take.
Or second years, for that matter. Or if they are, they're not important enough to talk about. Nothing exciting happens in them. There's nothing of note to talk about with the professor. You know, who knows? Like, there is more stories from the school that are in these books.
Absolutely.
And that's exciting.
Yep, and we'll get a little bit more as we go on, at least. Sure. Probably not as much as you would like. Like you said, you could easily make more movies, books, films, whatever you want out of this world, this content, this castle.
Sure.
But we'll get some more for you.
Speaking of new characters, real quick.
Sure.
The girl from the Slytherin house that's involved with this chapter, and then the next chapter also. Have we met her before?
Has
she been named?
Oh, Millicent Bulstrode?
Yes. I will never remember that name, by the way.
If you watch the movies enough times, you'll have it down. Don't worry.
Okay.
But yes, she. I tried to double check all these names. Like I have a system of writing them down, so it's pretty easy to check.
Sure.
If I've mentioned them before, and she has at least been mentioned before.
Okay. Was she like it when they were originally sorting the houses? Maybe.
If you give me a minute, I can double check if that was
I
the
was
case.
just She came up, and I was sitting there trying to rack my brain whether or not I knew her or I should be familiar with her, or if this was somebody new being introduced. Because in this book, the second book, the author definitely is kind of treating it as there's going to be plenty of people coming into the second book not reading the first.
Sure.
So it's hard to tell for me what she's introducing for the first time or what she's reintroducing to new audiences.
Yep. So the very first reference to her was during the Sorting Hat ceremony in the first year.
Okay.
I want to say the name was brought up at least one other time because they always mention how big she is.
Right.
Like she's not a small girl, and,
Sure.
and I kind of get that impression just in general from the Slytherin house. Like they're big mean bullies, like Crabbe and Goyle.
Right.
Like Millicent Bulstrode, I think, is the female version of Crabbe and Goyle.
Okay. But she's never been a part of any sort of story plot line up to this point.
No. This is the most we've ever talked about her.
Then I feel better about it.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's why she's not on the list. But I do like you bringing up those people that are a little we haven't really talked about before, even though they've been mentioned before. So.
Right. Okay.
Yeah.
That makes me feel better. So chapter 11.
Yes.
Started off immediately with something that just made me stop and scratch my head a little bit, Matt.
Yeah.
Perfect Percy. Just go ahead and just randomly assigning points because he can. I understood your point of reason last week when he deducted points from Harry and Ron for going in the girls' bathroom. Like,
sure,
he's trying to uphold the rules of the school. You know, he is a prefect. Like, that's kind of his job. That's his thing. But I feel super uncomfortable with him just randomly awarding points to Harry for winning the Quidditch match. It feels like the system is flawed.
I didn't necessarily read that as Percy personally awarded those points.
Well, I mean, he said, what were the words? He said something along the lines of, so you got 50 points for Gryffindor House. And you don't just get 50 points for winning a Quidditch match, do you?
No, you get the points you scored in the Quidditch match.
Right.
So it says, excellent flying yesterday, really excellent. Gryffindor has just taken the lead for the House Cup. You earned 50 points. So, like, I took that as he was just kind of letting Harry know what happened because he wasn't necessarily there after the match.
I read it as him just randomly assigning Harry 50 points for doing a good job, and
I can see how you might get how you could get there, but
I'm uncomfortable with the professors just doing it willy nilly, much less like a student who, granted, is still kind of in charge in a certain way, but still.
I mean that's part of their perks as a prefect. It's they can mess with the points.
I'm just not comfortable with that system.
Well, here, maybe the prefects can award or deduct points, but they have to be like approved by a teacher or something. I don't know.
I would only be comfortable if they were allowed to take points away from their own house, and that's it.
It's possible.
I don't know. That's just how I read it. If that's not how it is, then I mean, it's a silly little point, but I just read it and I was like, Percy, at it again.
Yep.
We got another little cool spell / gadget / thing that only would exist in this wizarding world.
Yeah.
Portable waterproof fires.
It's true.
What a crazy thing that is.
Have been brought up before. Like I said, that's Hermione's specialty.
Mm-hmm. In the toilet.
Yeah, I mean it's perfect. It's like it was made for a toilet.
It just cracks me up. I just love it so much. It's such a weird little thing.
I mean, if you have the ability to use magic, why not?
I know, but it's that little stuff that just catches me off guard sometimes, because it's like, oh, they got to heat this cauldron, obviously, because they're making a potion. Where are they going to do that? In the bathroom, where nobody goes. Perfect. Where are they going to put the fire? Inside the toilet bowl. Where else would you put it?
Although I suppose, I mean, it still needs to be portable, but if no one's been using those bathrooms for who knows how long, like there probably isn't too much water in the toilet anymore.
That's true.
Although, when Myrtle dives into it, she splashes everything. So.
Yeah, because she's always flooding the joint.
Yeah. All right. I don't know what's going on anymore.
I don't know. It's just a little thing that just made me laugh, made me chuckle.
Yep. Awesome. Before we go too much further, I want to pull out one quote. I'm pretty sure it came up pretty quick.
Okay.
It was so Harry was telling Ron and Hermione about Dobby.
Yep.
And I believe it's Ron says, if he doesn't stop trying to save your life, he's going to kill you.
Yeah.
And that right there, it pretty much sums up my feelings about Dobby. And that's why I don't care for him.
Sure.
Like, it feels like he's putting him in more danger than helping.
He acts with reckless abandon.
Yeah.
Because in his head, he has to go to whatever lengths necessary in order to save Harry Potter. And if that means pushing him to the brink of death, if not killing him, to save him from whatever he's trying to save him from, he's going to do that, because that seems like his one job, you know?
Yeah.
He's taking his task too literally.
Yeah, and I think part of the power is, part of the problem is, and we'll see this more as we go on, but Dobby just has too much power for his own good.
Mm-hmm.
Like his power allows him to do so much.
Sure.
That if he was, I mean, if he was a Muggle, he wouldn't be able to do these things to Harry Potter.
Right.
So it's all because he has so much power, which is we still don't know a lot about, but we've seen the things he can do. That it's causing more trouble.
Yeah. There's just no gray area with him. You know, it's 0 to 60, nothing in between.
Yep.
Very dangerous. And at least Ron understands that.
Yes.
Of course, I mean, they're still taking Harry at word for Dobby even being around and doing these things, you know?
It's true.
I mean, nobody has seen him except for Harry, so...
Yeah, he always makes a quick getaway whenever anybody else is coming.
Right. I mean, obviously, Ron and Hermione know about house elves, and they know that's a thing.
Yep.
It seems... I don't know. I would be questioning why this particular house elf will be trying to keep Harry away from Hogwarts and trying to save his life from whatever. They don't seem too interested in that scenario, but... I don't know. What else do you do? You know, you have a friend just coming and saying, hey, this weird little house elf keeps doing all this crazy magic, and he's probably going to kill me, so... I don't know. I don't know what you do with that. All the kids are kind of afraid of Harry Potter.
Yep.
Everybody's deathly afraid that they're going to be turned... they're going to be petrified, like our friend Colin and Mrs. Norris.
Yeah, pretty much everybody's convinced that he's the heir.
Sure.
He's the one that's doing this.
Mm-hmm. Neville bought some things.
Yeah, I just love that there's this like black market going on in school.
That was my question, was where is he buying this stuff from?
Oh yeah, it's basically you kind of figure upperclassmen are taking advantage of the underclassmen.
Oh, okay, is that what it is?
Yeah.
Okay. Because last week we were talking about the lack of a bookstore.
Yeah,
You know, so I'm like, do they have a gift shop here, or what's some sort of student store at least, or
we'll get into shoot. No, that's not gonna be till the next book. Um, in the next book, we'll get an idea of where they potentially could be getting some of this stuff from.
okay,
There's nothing on campus, if you will, but the upperclassmen in particular, third years and up, have an opportunity to go off campus from time to time.
oh, I didn't know that was a thing.
Yeah.
I didn't think they were close enough to anything worthy of going anywhere.
Yeah, we'll get into that, but like I said, that's third book, unfortunately. So
that's exciting.
Something to look forward to.
Sure. So the kids are talking about stealing the last ingredients that they need for this potion that they're brewing up, right? Last ingredients they need are in Professor Snape's office.
Yep, he's potion master. He has all the rare ingredients.
Sure. So they come up with this plan. Harry and Ron are going to create this big distraction. Hermione's going to slip in, steal what she needs, and be out. What happened to the invisibility cloak? Is that not a thing anymore? Did that get destroyed and I didn't know about it? Like, Harry should theoretically still have it, right?
Yep.
Okay.
Yep. And that's something that I believe Atari Alex mentioned last week in his email, that the invisibility cloak just seems to disappear for this book.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a little mysterious, but it brings up again how much the way I thought about it while I was reading this and while I was writing down my notes, because I keep using the phrase break the rules, and Lego Dimensions has done such a marvelous job of marketing that anytime I hear break the rules, I automatically think Lego Dimensions. And so it makes me so glad that we are getting a Hermione figure in Lego Dimensions, because time and time again, I keep writing, Hermione is plotting to break the rules again. Hermione is trying to convince Ron and Harry that we should break the rules. And
yeah.
And here she is again. And I think that's a big part of why we're not using another solution. We need Hermione in here kind of joining the party a little more.
Sure.
Not necessarily trying to be Miss Goody Two Shoes all the time and showing just how much of an effect Ron and Harry have had on her, I guess.
Yeah, they're rubbing off. And here's the thing. Even with the invisibility cloak, like, they could still do this plan. They could still create the distraction. She could still slip in, but I feel like the invisibility cloak would be...
Make it easier.
Just an added
Safer.
level of comfort knowing that you can't be seen, you know?
Although, at the same time, like, I kind of wonder, like, okay, there was a big distraction. Obviously, she made it without the invisibility cloak.
Right.
But it just seems to me that someone in the nearby vicinity would almost be more likely to notice a student disappearing and then reappearing. Whether it be one of the other students or Snape himself, just like has a sense for weird things going on.
Yeah.
At
this school, though, like, weird things happen all the time.
Yeah.
I mean, maybe not disappearing and whatnot, but I don't know. It just feels like it would add to maybe ensuring the plan goes off without a hitch. You know, just in case Snape does walk in while you're in there, he at least wouldn't see you. He might feel your presence, you know. I don't know. It's just weird that it still exists in this world as far as we know, but it's almost forgotten about.
Yeah.
Like, they should have just, like, destroyed it at the end of the first book, you know?
I mean, I almost get a James Bond vibe. Like my thing with James Bond is at the beginning of every movie, Q gives him a bunch of different gadgets, and even though some of them should obviously be able to be used more than once, he never does.
Sure.
It's always, I get into this situation. Oh, I have the perfect gadget for that. I will use it. And then that's it. That's the only time you'll use it, because you'll never be in that one situation again. But you could get into a spot later in the movie. It's like, oh, that would come in handy here too. But you're going to find a different gadget or another way out of it.
Sure.
And so I think like the invisibility cloak was last book's gadget.
Right.
And they used it a couple of times actually. So I don't want to abuse it.
I get that. Like it's good for the reader. It's good for the story to involve new and different
personally,
things.
If I were Harry, I wouldn't want to risk it on something like that, especially with Snape nearby. Because if Snape catches you with the invisibility cloak, you're never getting that thing back.
Then maybe just for the sake of, tying a little bow on it, like have at the end of the first book or in the second book when he gets back to Hogwarts, say he still has the invisibility cloak, but it's like locked away in a chest because it's dangerous and he doesn't want to risk getting in trouble using it again, or something to that effect. At least acknowledge that it exists and explain his thinking for never
giving
using
a reason why he doesn't want to use it.
Yeah. Because they were so quick to use it in the first book, for whatever they needed it for. So just maybe explain why it's not being used.
Fair enough.
I don't know. Little nitpicks.
Yep.
My fault.
That's what we do.
Dueling Club.
Yes.
Dueling Club. Interesting little setup to after school activity. Kinda. I mean, after class activity.
Yeah. It's extracurricular, if you will.
Sure.
It wasn't a class and it wasn't required. It was something they signed up for, even though basically the entire school signed up for it. So,
which I thought was hilarious. It's like, well,
yes.
Why do we even have signups if every kid wants to go to this? Because of course they want to learn how to duel. Duh.
Yes.
I mean, probably not the Hufflepuffs too much, but So as they're leading up to this dueling club, right? They're talking about how it's going to be taught by a professor, and in my head, Matt, I swear to you, I'm running through the list of professors that I know.
Yep.
And I'm like, who's going to teach this class? It's not going to be Dumbledore. It's not his thing. I was thinking maybe Hagrid, but he's not allowed to do magic, so that would be weird. And I'm just running through all these professors I know. I had completely forgot up until that point that Lockhart was still a thing.
As much as we saw him last week.
I know. And in my notes, it just says in all caps, of course it's Lockhart. Because of course it is.
Yep. Not only, it's his, like, he well, I mean, they tell us that he suggested it to Dumbledore. He asked Dumbledore for permission to start it. And it's just that kind. It's a very Lockhart thing to do.
Of course.
When the more you think about it, it's super Lockhart.
Yeah. Show off, and it's super Lockhart.
And I mean, I guess if you would go through the positions of the professors at the school, the defense against the dark arts makes the most sense as well.
Sure. And see, this is where I have my conflict with Lockhart immediately, is one of many, of course, is why would he push for this to happen and for him to take over, knowing that he's going to have to teach this, if he knows he is not capable of doing this? Like, why would he continue to put him, like, is he that egotistical or is he that dumb? I can't tell.
Yeah. And, well, I don't know how much we're going to talk about the actual dueling here, but since you're on Lockhart right now, when we get to the part with the snake, right? And like Lockhart is gonna step up and do something about it, and Snape right away is like, "Hold on, I'll take care of that." Like right then and there. But my note is, if I'm Lockhart and I know basically I'm a fraud or I'm gonna screw something up,
Mm-hmm.
and another wizard offers to take care of it, especially in front of all these people,
Yeah.
I'm gonna let him.
Yeah.
But Lockhart is so messed up that he's like, no, I have this audience here. I must perform.
Yeah.
And like,
They're here to see me.
He just thinks that because people are watching or something, like he's going to be able to do it now, or
Yeah,
that's going to make him better.
Like, does he think he can fake his way through it and get away with it, or does he just
Like-
not
like-
realize he can't do it?
Well, that's the same thing that happened last week with Harry and the Bludger with his arm.
Yeah.
Like that, the whole school was there watching the match, and he just I guess assumed that he could do it. I mean, we saw him fail. Everybody saw him fail, and but he didn't even really think that he failed. He's like, well, it doesn't hurt anymore, does it? Like,
It's the worst. I hate him so much, Matt. How did he get Snape to do this with him? What blackmail? What does he have on Snape to convince him to do this with him? Other than Snape knew he was going to fail, and Snape was like, this is going to be great.
Did they ever mention that? Like, actually, why Snape is there?
No, he just said.
Did
Snape
he
was-
invite him, or did Snape offer, or
It sounded like he just kind of like talked him into it.
or did Dumbledore send him there to keep an eye on him?
It didn't sound like he wanted to be there. That he was kind of an unwilling participant, but
Sure.
not to the point where he was forced to be there. But like, he begrudgingly came along for the ride as his assistant. Like, he is Lockhart's assistant in this scenario.
Let me introduce my assistant, Professor Snape.
Yeah.
He tells me he knows a tiny little bit about dueling himself and has sportingly agreed to help me with a short demonstration before we begin. Yeah, it doesn't really explain how Snape got roped into it, but yeah, Snape would never agree to be his assistant.
No, that's the crazy part.
Yeah.
Unless there was this plan all along to get back at Harry Potter in some way. Like, he could train his little disciple, Draco Malfoy.
But, I mean,
That seems a stretch.
when it was all being set up, because this was an optional activity, Snape would have no way of knowing Harry was going to be there.
It's a dueling club, Matt. Everybody's gonna be there. Just like the sun's going to come up in the morning and Lockhart's going to do something stupid, everybody was going to be there. That guarantees in life.
Okay.
You're right, though. I don't know. It seems like it's too much of an elaborate setup. I think it was just a happy coincidence that Snape was able to kind of to get at Harry a little bit.
Yeah.
It's been a while since he's been able to pick on him some.
Oh yeah, he used it to his advantage, definitely.
Interesting, fascinating. Like, I'm curious to see this play out in the film. This whole
Sure.
dueling club thing. I was trying to wrap my head around what they're actually learning in this dueling club. Like, it seems pretty straightforward as far as like the teaching is concerned.
Yeah, it's kind of weird because their demonstration didn't necessarily show them much,
Mm-hmm.
and then they just kind of paired them up and said, "Go at it," and
Right. Don't kill
like,
each other.
yeah,
Like, I feel like that didn't have to be like an organized situation for this to happen.
yeah. But we definitely start to see. You kind of get the idea that they're not supposed to be necessarily doing too much magic outside of class.
Right. Yeah, that's true. So it's kind of like recess for him.
Yeah.
Just go out and just get
where
it out.
they're
Get out
still
your energy.
supervised, but it's a more relaxed structure.
Sure. Just practice your magic. Try not to kill anybody.
But it does show off that they've been learning a lot that we haven't necessarily heard about.
Right.
Like the kids do know a number of different spells that they can use that have not been mentioned up till this point. So
tickling charm, that's the best.
They've been learning something. Yes.
That's so good. The big thing of all this though was the reveal of Parcel Mouth.
Parcel tongue, but yeah.
Oh, parcel tongue. Did I say? I think they actually
both are right.
Okay.
Harry is a parcel mouth. He speaks parcel tongue.
Okay. I for some reason I was okay.
No worries.
Didn't
First
know this was a thing.
Heard either word. Yep.
Sure.
I was slightly concerned he would. Because this is brought up briefly in the Lego Dimensions.
Oh, okay.
Did you ever run across this?
Nope.
Because it wasn't just in the Harry Potter Adventure World. They sprinkled it into some of the other new levels.
Oh.
Did you ever see a snake pop out of the wall?
No.
Okay.
Not that I remember.
Well, there's a couple points where a snake pops out of the wall, and like you have to use Harry to talk to the snake.
Oh, interesting.
Yes.
Huh. And see,
so
if I had seen that though,
yep,
I wouldn't understand it was a spoiler because of the callback in this book to like the first couple chapters of the first book, where Harry meets a boa constrictor and talks about him never going to Brazil and lets him out of his cage at the zoo. And so in my head, if I had seen that, I would have thought, oh, because Harry talked to that snake back at the zoo because he was a wizard, right?
Yeah.
It has nothing to do with him just being a wizard. This is a whole different ball game here. Apparently, not many people could just talk to snakes like Harry can.
No, not at all.
Which blew my mind, Matt, because I had just assumed like that was one of his weird little things that had happened to him throughout his life that he couldn't really explain.
Yep.
You know,
that's what it seemed like. That's what he assumed.
Yeah, the glass disappearing, he could suddenly talk to a snake, no big deal. Like he grows his hair on a whim or manages to get on top of the roof of a school just because of a wind gust, you know? But talking to snakes isn't just a normal wizarding thing.
No, that's a special gift, if you will, that is particular to Harry in this case, and at least one other person that we find out about.
Mm-hmm.
None other than Salazar Slytherin.
Right.
Was his specialty. They even referred to it as.
Mm-hmm.
Salazar Slytherin's specialty. Say that 10 times fast.
Yeah. Which is, they even explain that's why the mascot is a snake of the Slytherin house. Like,
yep.
It all makes sense all of a sudden. But the question, the bigger question, and I know you can't answer this, is how does Harry have this ability?
Yep.
Is he related? Like, everybody seems to think, like, Harry's part of this family heritage now. Harry kind of thinks it, too. He's super concerned about this. He starts putting pieces together. He's like, well, maybe that's why the Sorting Hat thought I'd be a good fit in the Slytherin house. Like, this starts to make sense now. Yeah.
We will definitely find out more about that as we go along. But, yeah. It's not something that's dropped.
Sure.
Like the invisibility cloak.
I don't feel like it's going to be. It's a big deal. And, like, it's crazy that seed was planted back so far long ago in that first or second chapter.
Hey, if you think that's crazy, just wait.
Well, there's another reference coming up that we're going to talk about. But yeah, I was just like, oh man, that's that's incredible and frightening. And now I can't stop thinking about Harry talking to snakes. And I love like how he was like trying to talk in the snake language and realized he couldn't unless he was face to face with the snake. Like that's the only way he could do it.
Well, I mean, the strangest part about it was that he didn't realize that he was speaking a different language.
Right. He thought he was speaking English.
Yeah, it felt like English to him.
Sure. But everybody else is like, what'd you say?
Everybody else heard something different.
Something scary. In that whole scene, though, when he was saving
Justin,
from the snake and all that stuff, I can't remember who said it, but something along the lines of he saved him before the snake bit off his head, and he was going to have to and he was going to join the next headless hunt or something like that.
Yep.
Just a one little line call back to old headless Nick, nearly headless Nick, I should say, and his lack of getting into the cool kids club. So I appreciate that. I appreciate the little things. It's cold at Hogwarts now.
Yep.
It's getting cold. The mandrakes need socks and scarves. Matt, my mind went crazy when I read that.
It's a good picture.
Just so many questions. Is it just one sock? Are they in like one sock, like a stocking with like a scarf around them? Like I can't picture it in my head, and yet I can at the same time. And Perfect. It's hilarious. So here's the question. Here's a question that was posed in this chapter. And once again, I know you're not going to be able to answer it, but this is kind of where we're going with this book. Is Harry Potter a dark wizard?
That is the question. Yeah, definitely.
I mean, I don't want to say the writing's on the wall, but
we're past that chapter.
The writing was on the wall. I want to think no.
Yeah.
In my heart, I'm saying no. But I don't. Anybody.
There's a lot of signs pointing in that direction.
Just everywhere he goes, people are getting petrified. Right?
Yeah.
Our friend Justin, petrified. Tripped over him. Tripped right over him. Not only that, our dear friend nearly headless Nick, now he's petrified.
Yeah.
How do you petrify a ghost?
and that's I get the impression that even the teachers can't figure that one out.
No. I mean, ghosts are kind of there's still, I feel like, a lot of questions revolving around how ghosts function at Hogwarts, right?
Sure.
Even for the people at Hogwarts, they're like, we don't really know what's going on with those guys, but they just do their thing, you know? And, like, some of the ghosts don't even know what's going on in the ghost world, like, how things happen or what can and can't happen.
Yeah.
The best part about him being petrified, though.
Yep.
The absolute best part about it is moving him with a fan.
Yep. What else are you gonna do?
I don't know. Can you grab him? Like, is he solid? Is he?
I kind of get the impression that he's still not solid.
Sure.
But like we discussed last week when we were trying to figure out how like Myrtle made the water splash.
Mm-hmm.
Like you kind of said, like they're basically air.
Yeah.
Like a mass of air.
Right.
And so, sure, grab a fan and blow him along.
But is he heavier than he was before because he's petrified, or is he just? That's so many
I don't
questions.
think so. I think it's especially for Nick, it might be a little bit different than humans and such.
Sure.
But Like the humans don't necessarily get heavier when they're petrified. You just get stiff.
Sure.
You're frozen. So
what a great just visual. I need that to be in the movie. I need it too. Spiders are back. I don't like this, man. I don't like this direction we're going.
All right. Before we get there,
okay.
One quote again.
Okay.
Because I love my quotes.
Sure.
So Harry's hiding in the library,
mm-hmm.
or went up to the library to look for Justin, right?
Yes. In the invisible section.
Yes. He was hidden in the invisibility section. So good. So good. I mean, it's just one line of writing, but like that just got me to thinking, though, not only are there enough books about invisibility that there's a section,
right?
But what other sections do you have in a wizard library?
Sure.
If you have an invisibility section, like I am super interested in that library now.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. There's probably a whole section on ghosts and
how
and
ghosts
poltergeists. I don't know, man. You're right.
Yeah.
That library would be fascinating.
Yeah. You got back to the spiders though. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And I made a note of this too. This is the second time now we've seen I think they've referred to it as like a trail of spiders.
Mm-hmm. Leaving.
And yeah. Also interesting.
Mm-hmm. What are those spiders up to, Matt?
But I know it's a castle, so it's old, dark, dingy, cold.
Sure.
And kind of probably open air.
Mm-hmm.
But just how many spiders are in here that they can make these exit trails, like you notice them?
Too many is the answer. And see, in my head, I'm thinking
they're
it's
leaving,
like
right?
Spiders, right? Maybe it's a whole like a line of ants, but spiders.
Yeah.
It's horrible to think about. Are they biting these people and petrifying them? Are they attacking? Are they the attackers? How would you bite a ghost? How would you do that?
Are they magical spiders?
You would think if they weren't just going to be marching out like, they would do some sort of magic to not be seen.
What if they go all like, I don't know, Power Ranger style, and they stack up on each other and create one giant spider, and then they can attack, and then
sure. That's a horrifying thought, Matt. Let's never talk about that again.
Okay.
Nightmares. It's not a Halloween issue yet, but might as well be with that kind of nonsense. We had a reference here.
Yeah.
Miss McGonagall.
Okay.
She used a code word to take Harry. She's taking Harry somewhere.
Ah, yes.
We learned she was taking him to Dumbledore's bachelor pad. But she used a code word to get in.
She did.
Lemon drop.
Lemon drop.
I love it so much. They could have picked anything for a code word, but they went back to lemon drop. It's so perfect. It warms my heart.
Mm-hmm. Dumbledore and his lemon drops.
Yeah. Awesome. And a cat eating lemon drops. Like it's I immediately went to cat eating lemon drops. I know it's Dumbledore's thing, but it's cracks me up, Matt. Cracks me up.
Yeah.
So we didn't really get any answers in this chapter.
Not so much.
Not so much at all. Just a whole lot of different little vines sprouting here and there.
Yep. More questions, actually.
Mm-hmm. A lot more questions. Except there was one thing that was not answered, but reconfirmed.
Yeah.
Lockhart is a moron.
Absolutely.
That's what we learned this chapter.
Perfect.
Which leads to chapter 12.
Chapter 12, the Polyjuice potion. And believe it or not, we do have a new character.
Woohoo.
Can you name it?
Browsing my notes. Was it the bird?
There you go.
Don't remember the bird's name. I'm sorry.
Fox.
That's right, but spelled
Fox the Phoenix.
definitely differently.
Go for it.
Nope, I can't.
Fawkes.
There we go.
Fox. So yeah, Harry meets Fox
Mm-hmm.
in Dumbledore's office.
Mm-hmm.
Lots of stuff going on in the office.
A whole lot of things.
Yeah. Anything catch your eye?
The sorting hat.
Yep.
That's where the sorting hat stays when he's not sorting things.
Yep.
Also, the sorting hat doesn't talk unless it's on somebody's head or being used.
Yeah. Basically, that's it, it's obviously a magical item, but its method of communication. I mean, I guess it does verbalize though when it tells you, it shouts out which house you're going to be sorted into.
Right.
But yeah, the majority of its communication is done like psychically almost.
Sure.
You feel, because like it's talking to the person who's wearing it, but nobody else is hearing it.
Right.
So
But it feels like that kind of like activates it and allows it to speak and call out what house, and then, during the whole sorting ceremony, like it's almost like there's a switch turned on,
Yeah, I mean, now to think about it too, at the beginning of each year, it sings a song.
Mm-hmm.
You remember that?
Yep.
Yeah. So it does have the ability to speak without anybody wearing it, but yeah, for the most part, it doesn't.
Yeah. And it kind of reconfirmed that, it thought Harry would be a good fit in Slytherin, but made the right choice when you put him in Gryffindor.
Yeah.
Harry felt pretty good about that, although still curious about why he would be a good fit in Slytherin. The more we learn about the Slytherin house, the more questions arise about that.
Yeah, and I will tell you right now, this is an issue that will not be dropped quite so easily. So
I feel like that's a for sure thing. The bird.
Yep.
The writing in this scene, when we are introduced to Dumbledore's bird, his phoenix.
Yep.
Was phenomenal, because it's just written as Harry thinking about how this bird looks sick and it's on its like last legs, and the worst thing that could possibly happen would be for it to die while he's here before Dumbledore gets here. And as he's thinking that, the bird spontaneously catches on fire out of nowhere. Yep. And Harry has this freak out moment, like, I just thought about this bird dying, and all of a sudden he's lit on fire and turns into this pile of ash. Like, it was just so perfect. Like, it wasn't dragged out. It went from him thinking it and then his thought being interrupted to it actually happening.
Yeah, which makes you wonder about, what could Harry do? Right. What powers does he have that he doesn't know he has?
Sure.
He can set things on fire.
Or not.
Okay.
Maybe not. I don't know. Did he influence it anyway? I don't know. Dumbledore doesn't seem to think so.
I mean, you kind of wonder, like, all those weird things happened to him before he turned 11, before he came to Hogwarts. He could do all these strange things.
Yeah.
So, I mean, what's to say that these things just automatically stop once you're at Hogwarts?
Right.
All right, there's bound to be some magical slip-ups that still aren't fully controlled.
Yeah, he's not totally refined in his magical ways.
Yeah, I don't think just coming to Hogwarts automatically stops all that. So.
Sure. The cool thing about this is we knew there were phoenixes in this world, right? Harry's wand is made with the tail feather of a particular phoenix.
That's a very good point. I was trying to figure out where you knew that from, actually, but yes, he has phoenix tail feather. Yeah,
But that's pretty much the only mention of a phoenix. But the fact that
Yeah.
that point was kind of driven home that it was a phoenix, was kind of a cool thing, and that's something that kind of sticks out right in my head.
Yeah, definitely.
But like this whole scene of like the phoenix molts like any other bird, but like in a way that it basically catches fire and turns in this pile of ash and then reemerges, rises from the ash as this new baby little bird. Phenomenal. Like absolutely phenomenal.
Yeah.
Because it's still a bird. It still needs to go through like the normal bird things, but it's a fire bird that, is,
Yeah,
Phoenix is a cool thing.
The phoenix is that mythical creature that a lot of people do know about, and the phrase even rising from the ashes like a phoenix, it has. I mean, it's a phrase that most people have heard at some point in their life.
Right.
You may not have ever thought about it and what exactly happens or why that is a phrase, but Harry sees it firsthand. He witnesses it firsthand, and he's in his world. I kind of get the idea that even if for Muggles in general, phoenixes are still part of mythology, I get the idea that Harry still wouldn't know about it because he's been like the Dursleys always didn't allow anything like that. The Dursleys definitely wouldn't think the phoenix is a real thing, so that would be considered imagination, which they didn't allow, and all that sort of stuff. Or if they did know it was a thing in the magical world, because they do have some knowledge of it, they wouldn't allow that either.
Right.
So Harry definitely had no idea what a phoenix was at this point, other than he has a tail feather in his wand, sure. But he's never seen a phoenix before. The tail feather is in his wand, so he's never seen the tail feather. He doesn't know any of this stuff. And so it's going to be a huge shock for him. Yeah, this bird just caught on fire. He knows nothing about it.
Right. And, with previous creatures that we've been introduced to, some of them have taken me by surprise. I wasn't expecting to see them.
Yeah.
Almost 2 books in now.
I'm always excited when we get to a new creature.
Yeah.
Because I know you're going to be excited for it.
Sure. And this part, I wasn't excited because I realized that there were phoenixes in this world because I already knew that. I was excited to learn about the intricacies about how cool this little phoenix bird was and the fact that Dumbledore has one as a pet.
Yes.
That's pretty rad.
Yeah, you don't see the other students walking around with a phoenix as a pet.
No. It's not something he brags about or talks about. It's not like it perches like on his shoulder as he walks around Hogwarts like, look at me and my phoenix,
Yeah.
This is something that he just keeps in a little bashful pad and that's it,
Yeah.
So then Dumbledore just asks Harry the question. He's like, is there anything you need to tell me? The hard-hitting questions, right?
Yeah. And it's one of those questions that adults and figures in authority just kind of abuse at times.
Yeah.
I think.
Sure.
It's like whether or not they know someone has something to tell them, they're going to ask it because it will get some kind of reaction, whether involuntary or not, from the person you're asking it to.
Absolutely.
And so you're going to get some information somehow.
As a parent, Matt, I've used it more than once in my life.
Yeah.
It's a very effective tool with kids. You may not get the answers you're looking for, like you say, but they know that you know something. And sometimes that's all you need from them.
Yeah.
The truth is out there. And you get it eventually. Sometimes it's just their opportunity to, hey, fess up to something, Because even if it's bad, admitting it is always better than lying about it. Because that just makes it worse down the road. I promise you that.
Yeah.
So, as he's asking Harry this question, in my head, I'm putting myself in Harry's shoes. And I'm like, what? what would I tell Dumbledore right now? Like, we could talk
Yeah, you
about.
have this nice one-on-one meeting with Dumbledore.
Right.
What do you tell him?
So many things, right? You talk about, you think that you may have some sort of Slytherin heritage, maybe. Maybe you talk about, like he already knows like your relationship with Snape, but, maybe you bring that up with the Dueling Club that just happened. Maybe you bring up Dobby. Now's the time to talk about Dobby, because if anybody would have some sort of solution for this Dobby creature, you would think Dumbledore would, right?
Yeah.
You can't go to Snape about Dobby. You can't go to McGonagall or Dumbledore. I feel like you could be like, hey, so remember when I got in trouble back at my house for using magic? Well, it was a stupid little house elf that decided it was going to use magic. And then it kept me from getting on the platform. And then it's trying to kill me in Quidditch. Like now would be the time to explain Dobby.
Sure.
But that's not what I honed in on, Matt.
No?
As if I was Harry Potter, if I could tell Dumbledore just one thing, he's looking for one thing from me, right? I would look at that guy in his eyes, Matt, in his half-moon shaped spectacles. And I would say, Mr. Dumbledore, Headmaster Dumbledore? How would you address him?
Professor.
He's a professor? Okay.
Yep. They I don't know how much you've seen it referenced that way, but yeah, definitely professor.
Okay.
He is the headmaster, but his I guess the title you use to address him would be professor.
Right. Okay. So I'd say, look, Professor Dumbledore, we need to talk about something. This is really important. This involves me. But beyond that, it involves the entire school that you love and that you have sworn to protect. We need to get rid of the dumb, moronic Lockhart. He's no good. He's worthless. He's a waste of space. He's dangerous. He doesn't even realize how dangerous he is. And quite frankly, Professor Dumbledore, I question the fact that he's even a professor here, because he is not qualified to do this job, possibly any job at all. He's absolutely ridiculous, and we need to get rid of him. That's what I would tell Dumbledore.
I'm glad you went there. You had a very definite direction where you were going, and I wasn't sure at first, but I thought about it for about half a second. I'm like, oh nope, I know exactly where he's going with this.
But he didn't. He didn't say anything.
No.
Then we had a little time jump.
Yeah.
Which was weird. I feel like there was nothing settled in that whole thing. Other than we know that Dumbledore knows something, and Harry knows that Dumbledore knows something, but they're kind of playing this cat and mouse game right now with each other. So.
Yeah. Well, okay. How far ahead were you jumping?
Well, I mean, the book itself, did a time jump, right? Sorta. I mean, it didn't really explain, like, Harry leaving. Like, there was no... Like, all of a sudden, like, now he's back with the Weasleys, and the twins are making all these jokes. I mean, it wasn't necessarily a huge time jump. I guess there was just no...
Yeah. I mean, Hagrid burst in and, came into Harry's defense.
Sure. Yeah. Okay, that's right. I forgot about Hagrid.
So there's a little bit of that. We got to see Hagrid once again, always basically going out of his way to defend Harry. Although at the same time, I thought I remembered like Hagrid was on his way to see Dumbledore anyway.
Right.
And so I kind of wondered how Harry beat him there.
It feels like Hagrid just always knows when Harry's in trouble.
But he's always looking out for him. So
yeah, absolutely.
It's all good.
Yeah, I guess I just completely forgot about the Hagrid thing, because it is more Hagrid just helping out Harry as best as he can.
Yeah. Then there, I will agree. After that, there's a little bit of a time jump.
Okay,
so.
yeah. And then it didn't really explain what happened after that. There was no Harry went back and was like, "Hey, I should have told them." Like it was just,
Yeah,
oh,
he just didn't tell him anything.
Sure.
And it's like, all right, we'll keep going.
yeah. So the twins, they're just cracking jokes left and right.
Yes, and so I just because I brought it up every other time, we've had Percy trying to take care of Ginny.
Mm-hmm.
We had Ron trying to take care of Ginny, and then we mentioned, well, why don't Fred and George do it? I'm like, well, they just, try to make her laugh or something. And sure enough, here we go.
Talking about how Harry is, a dark wizard, and just everything. They're saying everything that people are thinking, but they're doing it in a joking manner. Like, are you guys serious? You really believe this? Like, this is Harry Potter,
Yes.
Let's be real here, folks.
But it makes Harry feel so much better to know that they at least are on his side and don't think there's anything to worry about.
Weasleys have your back for sure. They mentioned exploding snap.
Yeah,
I don't know what that is. Do I know what that is? Has that ever been mentioned?
That's a good question. I'm not sure if it's been mentioned. It's a wizard card game.
Oh, okay. Because they said they were playing Exploding Snap, but I didn't.
At least that. Now that I think about it, I've always assumed it's a card game.
Okay.
It's definitely a wizard game. That they play from time to time. We usually it's never really a big part of the story. We just hear about them playing it when they're in the common room, or maybe I don't know if they ever played it at the Weasley house in the Burrow. Looking up here, Exploding Snap is a wizarding card game in which the cards spontaneously explode during the games.
That's fantastic. In my head, I was thinking, are they playing with the fireworks? I don't remember the fireworks being called that. So
no. So I'm not just imagining things. It's a wizard card game.
Nice.
Yeah.
Okay. It was mentioned. There was no explanation. So
it's brought up from time to time. It's just something they do when there's downtime.
Sure.
They play Exploding Snap.
Fair enough. And see, these are the things I can't just look up because.
Oh yeah. I completely understand, and that's why I'm doing it for you.
Right. I'd love to just hey, I don't know what that means, and look it up and then ruin the next 3 books.
Because there are great resources on. I mean, you can imagine if you haven't seen it already. There's a Harry Potter wiki. It's out there. It has everything you could ever want. And is usually the first result whenever you type in anything remotely Harry Potter related.
Sure.
It's just going to pop up there. So,
back to Christmas.
Yep.
It's a favorite time of year for Hogwarts. It's nice and quiet.
Most years, yep.
Yeah. The trio, they're staying back again. Or actually, not again, because Hermione is staying with them this year.
Yeah.
Last year she was
went
gone.
home last year.
Yeah. So she's hanging back, but so is Draco Malfoy and his 2 goons.
Yep.
But I mean, it sounds like most of the other kids are going home. So, I mean, it would
vast
be a
majority.
very weird and still kind of fun time of the year. All the Weasley kids are there, so you know some stuff is going on, during that time, just with the twins,
Yeah, I mean, definitely just having the trio there would have made it a good time, but with all the Weasleys there, yeah.
I always enjoy seeing what Harry gets for Christmas, and this year did not disappoint with his gift from the Dursleys.
Yep.
Got a small package. His owl, Hedwig, is back.
Yeah.
And they're on decent terms again. Hedwig was a little mad at Harry for the car ride to Hogwarts.
Yeah, that was the last time we really saw Hedwig. Was got thrown out when they got thrown out of the car, and then Harry opened her cage and she kind of pecked at him angrily, I think, and then she flew off to the owl. I hate that word, owlery.
Owlery.
Yeah,
It's a tough word to say.
It is.
Yeah, it's not a very good mouthfeel. So I assume that Hedwig's still been doing Hedwig things this entire school year, but just not on good terms.
Exactly. She does her job.
Yeah.
She's very good at it, and she's not going to neglect that.
Sure.
But it doesn't mean she has to be happy about it.
No, she's definitely not being loving in any way towards Harry. But it's Christmas time, and she's feeling in good spirits, and that's good to see. But she delivers a little package from the Dursleys. It's a toothpick.
Yep.
And a note that basically says, "Hey, please don't come back."
Yeah. Which I actually made a note of because it brought up something that you've asked about before.
Summer at Hogwarts.
Yep. See if you can stay for the summer.
See, I'm not the only crazy person to worry about this sort of thing. I mean, I want to for the sake of Harry and for the sake of, but like the Dursleys just don't want Harry back. I'm sure Harry could probably go to the Weasleys for the summer. Like, that's not going to be a big deal, right? Yeah. But it's just funny that they're just like, please, just don't ever come back. Like, we're done. Here's a toothpick. We'll call it even, right?
Yeah, I mean, last year I think they actually sent him money. Mm-hmm. I believe it was like the smallest amount of money they could send.
Right.
But like it was actually worth something. This toothpick might be worth less than that.
Sure, it's probably used too. Knowing that, like it's probably not even a new clean one. This is just trash that they felt was like, we gotta send something.
Yeah.
Other than a note that says, "Please don't come back."
Sitting there at the dinner table, and they running on a deadline. Hedwig was sitting there waiting for him. It's like, well, okay, here's this note. What are we gonna put in it? Oh, well, I'm done with this.
Exactly.
Throw the toothpick in. All right.
It's almost like he had to take it out of his mouth to lick the envelope, and it was like,
okay,
toss it in. Ridiculous.
Either that, or for all we know, they could have taken it out of the garbage.
Yeah.
Who knows? We don't need this.
No. Can't trust them at all. Let's just. I mean, other than that, Christmas was pretty standard, low key.
Yep.
Nothing too exciting until we found out that the Polyjuice potion was ready to go.
Yeah. And I think we're going to take a quick break here.
Ooh.
To talk about our Muggle poll.
All right.
So, I think it's safe to say we know what the Polyjuice potion does.
Mm-hmm.
It allows you to turn into someone else. I mean, to complete the potion, you need a something from that person, a part of that person. Typically, in this case, hair, to become them for what we find out is only an hour.
Sure. A DNA sample.
Yes. So I didn't want to limit people this week. So I decided to leave our poll open-ended. So it wasn't really a poll. But I asked, if you had one glass of Polyjuice potion, who would you become for an hour? Obviously, assuming you get the DNA sample.
Sure.
But I didn't want that to limit anybody either, so we just left it there.
Mm-hmm.
And I know it's a harder thing to actually send in a response, so thank you for those of you who did.
Right.
I know I was asking a lot of you. I didn't warn you ahead of time. Didn't give you, gave you a couple hours to think about it, but
sure. To be honest, my idea for the Muggle poll this week was what color socks and scarves best fit the mandrakes. But this required just a little bit more thinking than that.
Yeah.
Sorry, you weren't ready for that, were you?
No. You really do like those socks and scarves. Okay.
I love the weird little creatures in this story, Matt.
Yeah? All right.
Yeah.
So we didn't get too many answers, but that's probably a good thing because I'm planning on reading them off. So, thank you to everybody who did take the time to do so.
Absolutely.
And next week, I'll be sure we'll head back to the polls. Actually, speaking of polls, some of these answers are very appropriate. So we have from Rhonda at Rook's Hideout. Outside of the Harry Potter universe, I would choose God because, inside the Harry Potter world, I'd be Dumbledore.
Okay.
So we discussed this one beforehand. Not everybody's going to quite understand how good of an answer this is, but Shopkins Inquirer wrote in, easy. I'd be Amiibo Jason.
Wouldn't we all?
Yes. Then we could all be cuter in person.
Mm-hmm. It's true. Only for an hour, though, Matt. Only for an hour.
Only for an hour. We have to take turns.
The amount of selfies I would take would be unreal.
I'm hoping he doesn't listen to this podcast either. Fried sea bass. This is super hard to pick. For a real person, you'd pick Game Over Greggy.
Okay.
Interesting pick. Fictional character, Batman. At least for the moment, this is my answer.
Sure. Batman or Bruce Wayne?
He says Batman.
It feels like a lot of responsibility, and a lot could go wrong in an hour. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I do.
I mean, sure, there's a certain power that you would feel being Batman for an hour, but...
Yeah, and I mean, you get to play with all the gadgets then.
Sure.
You could drive around the Batmobile or something. Like, you wouldn't really be able to do that as Bruce Wayne.
Right. Yeah.
You have to hide all that stuff.
That's true.
Our friend Rotari Alex, we'll have an email from him later. I would be Reggie. I'm not even going to try his last name. From Nintendo. Is that how is that it? Reggie Fils-Aimé?
Fils-Aimé. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I never remember.
Yeah.
So I would be Reggie so I could find out everything about the #Switch. And that might actually be my favorite answer, just because it's true. In an hour, you could really figure out pretty much everything you need to know about that thing.
Yeah. Although you can just wait 5 months and know the same things.
Yeah. Long's Toys. He would become Trump so he could drop out of the race.
I don't even know if you had an hour, you can still convince yourself to do that.
That's like some official. There's got to be some official action you can take though in an hour.
Yeah, you could probably get a signature on something to make it official.
Yeah,
I still feel like just the overwhelming Trump spirit would just still reign supreme. But
I mean, you're not overtaking the person. Because you're just
you're right.
You just look like them,
That's
and
true.
you get to act how you want.
Okay, you're right.
Yeah. And then we had Ben Miller write in and say, "Well, that we need someone else to become Hillary so she can drop out as well. They're both horrible."
Yeah, that's our political portion of the podcast.
Yep, I'm not going to go into that anymore. Falcon ASMR. I think I'd be Johnny Ive. Could waltz into the Apple R&D design building and check out awesome prototypes for 55 minutes. Brian, Billy DJ Dog. I would become The Rock and go to a water slide park and have fun without worrying about sunscreen.
Although you would have to worry about all the fans. I don't know if you could enjoy an hour at at a water park as The Rock.
Sure.
You'd have to make sure nobody else was at the water park because you're The Rock,
You could you rent out the entire water park?
I guess.
For a private water slide party.
You just show up and be like, "Hey, I'm The Rock. Let's vacate."
Everybody out. Everybody out.
How long would that take for everybody to get out of the park, Is
That's
that your
true.
entire hour?
Well, if you could time it, you could go right before they open, and it's
That's
all right.
true.
I'm the Rock. I need an hour in here by myself.
Sure.
Don't let anybody in. You're
Yeah.
opening an hour late today.
Because if you're just in the general public as The Rock, you're not enjoying yourself. Unless you like signing autographs for an entire hour, then hey, you're going to have a blast.
Yeah, but I don't think that was the point of going to the water park then.
Yeah, I know.
Then you just become The Rock for an hour and sign autographs.
But that's what I'm saying. If you're around the general public, like, you would have to, that's what you would be doing. Like,
Sure.
people want, to be around The Rock.
And finally, we have Malik at Rose F. Death. I would have to be a Nintendo character. Just want to drive around all those crazy Mario Kart courses. I think I would enjoy that as well.
Sure. Who would you be, Matt?
I even though I asked the question, I couldn't really nail it down to any, like,
Sure.
I guess, like, I kind of thought about, like, becoming a pro athlete, something like Aaron Rodgers or something.
Right.
But at the same time, like, I don't know if I'd want to take the hits for an hour.
Sure.
Like, I don't think I could withstand playing a professional sport for an hour. I'm not.
Right.
I mean, granted, okay, I guess I would have his body that was conditioned for that.
Right.
Well, actually, I don't know how that works, because we were just saying, like, I look like him,
Sure.
but do I?
You're
I don't know.
as big as him,
Yeah,
but inside is the.
but
the
am I as out of shape as me, or?
Good question.
Yeah. But that's kind of where I headed first. Is
Okay.
like see what that's actually like.
Right. You know who I'd be?
Yeah.
For an hour? Barack Obama.
Really,
Yeah. You know what I could get done in an hour, Matt?
we're not done with our political section.
Well, here's the thing. I would use it just for my sheer entertainment purposes only. I want to know about Area 51 and Roswell. I want to know the truth behind, like, other mythological creatures like Bigfoot and that kind of stuff. I want government secrets, not any sort of, like, political or
Sure.
war-based secrets or anything like that. Like, I just want, like, is there a secret society that's, like, 300 years guarding this country?
Yeah.
A la, National Treasure, that kind of, like, I just want to know all that kind of crazy stuff.
Basically, you want to go through the new president orientation.
Right.
But, like, there's once you become president, there's a lot of things they tell you.
Sure. Yeah.
That not everybody,
Right.
The vast majority of humans on Earth will never know.
Right.
And
The rest of your time in office, you're worrying about foreign politics and policies and international affairs and all that stuff. Day one, though, you're learning the nitty-gritty stuff about how this country operates.
Yeah.
I want to know that stuff.
And now that you mention it, yeah, there's a lot of that I would like to know too. Like,
Sure.
the one that has always gotten me is, like, I know there's some kind of, there are many levels below at least the White House, probably the Pentagon too, and a bunch of the other government buildings that are very, like, secure levels.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I want to know what's down there.
Yeah.
And, like, how deep are they, and how did they build them, and when did they build them, and all this other stuff. Like, I know there's everybody, like, just kind of like there's secret tunnels underneath Disney World and Disneyland.
Right.
Like, they're there.
Sure.
You know they're there. They don't talk about them.
No.
If you get a job there, you learn about them.
Sure.
But
And occasionally an employee will slip up, or past or present, but
yeah, very rarely though.
Sure. But,
I mean,
the secrets that, like, some people in this country know about, that kind of stuff with the government in our country, like, that's stuff they take to their grave,
Oh yeah. I mean, just watching how closely Disney employees guard that type of stuff. I mean, the government employees even more so. I mean, they're even more thoroughly vetted, I'm sure. But yeah.
Yeah.
There's a lot of interesting stuff there.
And I don't want to do anything with the information I gain in that hour.
No, you
Nothing
just
at
want to
all.
know about it.
Just so I could be like, huh, I knew that. Or, huh,
That's cool.
how about that? You know? But then a part of me worries, Matt. I don't know if you've ever seen the classic film Independence Day.
Oh, yeah.
Okay. When the president's like, there's no Area 51. And the general's like, well, actually, he's like, what? What are you talking about? And the president, how could I not know about this? Like, that's my concern, is maybe the president doesn't know this kind of stuff. Like, I would waste my entire hour looking for stuff and I still wouldn't know.
Sure.
But it would be fun to look.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. That's what I would do.
That's a very good choice.
Yeah.
I approve.
Yeah. Just for my own entertainment sake. Just, information. I like knowing things. I like learning new things, and that would be fun. And then I'd walk away and be like, huh, it's a pretty cool gig.
Sounds good to me.
Yep. All right.
So yeah, moving on.
Yeah. The trio.
Polyjuice potion.
Bottoms up. They drink the potion.
Yep.
Harry and Ron turn into Crabbe and Goyle.
Absolutely.
Hermione, we thought, was turning into what's her name?
Millicent Bulstrode.
Mm-hmm. And but something didn't happen right, because she doesn't come out of the bathroom stall.
Correct.
So it's like, what happened? What went wrong? We don't know. We find out at the end. She accidentally turned herself into a cat.
Yeah.
Instead of the hair from the girl, she accidentally grabbed a hair from a cat that was on her.
Yep.
Whoops. Honest
And
mistake.
the potion is not meant for animals.
That's the problem.
Yeah.
Because the hour runs out and she is still cat.
Yeah.
Boy, oh boy. Although I do appreciate that they're going to go to Miss Pomfrey, right?
Madam.
Madam. Yep. Okay. I know Miss didn't sound right, but I knew it was a professor. Without like worrying about it, because Ron is pretty much convinced that she hardly ever asks any questions about stuff anyway. She's just like, whatever. Yeah, these kids are doing stuff all the time.
Exactly. I definitely love Madame Pomfrey. One, she is very good at her job, which doesn't always happen at Hogwarts, as we've seen.
Right.
But she is one who is very good at her job. Mm-hmm. There's no question about why she's working there.
Yeah.
And then, yeah, the fact that she doesn't really ask questions.
No, she doesn't need to know. She doesn't care.
Yeah, she's just doing her job.
Mm-hmm.
If I guess if anything was super serious, that I can't really think of a situation where she would need to ask questions necessarily.
Right.
Like it in the grand scheme of things, it's not really gonna matter how it got to that place. Like, I guess if there was a rash of students coming in with the same problem, maybe they'd want to look into it. Kind of like
right
the students being petrified.
Sure.
Like, yeah, they're going to worry about that a little bit, but at the same time, she's just going to do her job and take care of it.
Yeah. The only questions she might ask are just like ones that would be useful to her helping the situation. How did this come about, type of thing. But I appreciate the fact that she has this kind of welcoming attitude that students who maybe getting into some trouble, maybe doing some things that they shouldn't be doing, still feel comfortable to come to her for help when they need it, because they know that it's not going to get out to McGonagall or Snape or Dumbledore or whoever it is. Like it's kind of like that patient doctor confidentiality thing, to where that allows the kids to go out and do stupid things, but still know that help is there waiting for them.
And from time to time that kids are going to do stupid stuff.
Yeah.
Case in point, actually, they didn't actually go to Madame Pomfrey for this, but when they were stealing the ingredients and Harry set off the firework and everybody got splashed with the swelling solution or whatever it was, and they all puffed up.
Mm-hmm.
That would be something like it just happened to be something she needed to take care of. I mean, Snape was right there and he knew what he needed to do. I mean, you kind of figure he was prepared for it because that's what he was teaching in class that day.
Mm-hmm.
And it was probably something like he'd probably have to reverse something for someone. He wasn't expecting to do it for the entire class necessarily, but yeah, things happen. They're kids. They're learning.
Sure.
They're experimenting. They're not full-fledged wizards, and that's why they're at this school in the first place.
Right. I mean, could you just imagine, like, if the kids didn't feel comfortable going to her because they thought they would get in trouble for everything?
Yeah.
Like, we'd have kids dying all the time. Because they'd just be like, oh, I could sleep it off, or
Sure.
trying to do, potions and spells on each other to try to fix, and, it would just make things a mess. So, like, it's very crucial that she has that trust with the kids, and the kids know that they could go to her with things without the risk of getting in trouble, possibly.
So now you got me thinking of the Hogwarts teachers as like a professional sports team, specifically football, because that's what season we're in now. But Dumbledore spent most of his cap hiring good teachers like Madame Pomfrey, who's really good at her job, everybody can trust. They got McGonagall there. She's been there forever. You're paying her big bucks. You got Snape. You're paying him. And so you get down to needing a new teacher. Defense against dark arts. You're hitting your cap already. You don't have any money to spend on them. So you get this worthless teacher.
Mm-hmm.
Someone who calls himself a teacher.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe that's what's going on here.
Maybe. God, worthless is an understatement of the year, Matt. One little thing before we get into the meat of what they learn or don't learn from their Polyjuice potion experiment. We met a kid, very briefly, no name, from Ravenclaw.
Yeah.
They exist.
They exist. Absolutely.
They're at Hogwarts.
Yep.
I'll be darned.
Yep. The house has not been kicked out. No worries. I did notice that, and I kind of wish there had been a name.
Yeah.
But I'm just glad to see that there is a mention of Ravenclaw, and I'm glad you noticed it as well.
I mean, it honestly just feels like she just wrote that the student was from Ravenclaw just because in her head she's like, I've almost gone 2 books now without ever talking about Ravenclaw. So people are going to start questioning whether or not this is actually a thing. I need to at least make some reference to Ravenclaw,
Well, it probably didn't help either that we have gotten a lot more mentions of Hufflepuff very recently. Because Ernie Macmillan, Miss Fawcett, and Justin Finch-Fletchley are all Hufflepuffs.
Right.
So we've been talking about Hufflepuff a lot now. Mm-hmm. I mean, we always talk about Gryffindor, and we always talk about Slytherin. And now this book, all of a sudden, we're talking about Hufflepuff. And so I was like, yeah, got to balance it out a little bit. Hey, look, there's a fourth house.
We've mentioned it, but let's reconfirm the fact that they're here.
There is one student wandering around.
I appreciate it.
Awesome.
So what were the big things that happened with this Polyjuice potion experiment?
Well, so it was just Harry and Ron as Crabbe and Goyle finally found their way, well, close to the Slytherin common room, where they eventually ran into Draco, who was the only person they were looking for. And they found out that he is not the heir. He doesn't know who the heir is. And they found out that he knows the Chamber of Secrets was opened 50 years ago.
Right. He doesn't know by who. He doesn't know what the details of it, but
yep.
Yeah.
I did also make a note of he showed him a newspaper clipping, something he found funny, which was about Arthur Weasley. So this would be Ron's dad, and he was fined 50 galleons.
Yeah, I don't know what that means.
Yeah, I don't know how much you remember their money system because it's so convoluted.
Yeah, I don't.
But the galleons are the gold coins.
Okay.
So it's a lot.
The most expensive piece.
Yep.
Okay.
The most expensive piece. I'm trying to remember now.
I don't remember the conversion.
I don't remember exactly. Like I was trying to think something we knew the price of. And I want to say like the I think we had I want to say we had a price for like Harry's Nimbus 2000, and I want to say it was less. I for some reason I want to say it was less than that.
Yeah,
which was considered really expensive.
Sure.
So basically, in my mind, 50 galleons is a lot of money.
Yeah,
and that seems like a huge fine. And for a family like the Weasleys,
that's the biggest thing. Is for somebody with wealth. It's still a significant amount of money, but
if you're the Malfoys, it probably doesn't matter.
Sure,
you can pay that out of your pocket.
Yeah,
but
not willingly, but still, it's not going to bankrupt you. But for the Weasleys, like that's not good.
Yeah.
Also got mention of the Azkaban.
Yes, Azkaban
prison,
the wizard prison.
I know that's a book.
Yes, exactly. Like, and it's something that jumped out at me because I didn't necessarily remember it being mentioned already.
Yeah.
And having been through the series so many times, I don't always notice these things, except now when I'm rereading this time, I'm looking for all the little details. And yeah, they mentioned Azkaban. And when this book first came out, we would have known nothing except that, you said it was a wizard prison. Okay. You probably would have glossed over it.
Yep.
To be perfectly honest.
And when this book came, I mean, the other books weren't announced. You didn't have titles of what the future books were going to be.
Yeah.
You didn't know that was going to be a big thing, right?
No. And I mean, honestly, since all you know is the book title, it's actually the next book. And
it is?
Called, yeah.
Oh,
yeah.
Matt, I don't.
I understand you don't know, you don't have the order down and all that stuff. You're trying to ignore it, but you just made me second guess myself for a minute there. Like you had looked it up or something, just the order of the books or the covers or something, and it's like, oh no. So yeah, the third book is actually called Harry Potter and the Prisoner of Azkaban.
Okay.
So it still doesn't really give much away.
No.
Other than the fact that we will be talking more about Azkaban.
Sure.
So yeah, I found it interesting that it's already mentioned here. Yeah, don't really know what's going on.
Nope.
Of course, when the book title was released, I'm sure a lot of people back in the day tried to figure out what was going on.
Sure.
That made for good publicity.
Oh, I bet.
But yeah.
And again, this chapter, like this whole thing, we've been building to the kids making this potion. They're going to learn for sure who the heir of Slytherin was and get all these answers to what's going on. And we're back to square one now.
Dead end.
Except Hermione's a cat. So I think we're like a couple steps backwards in this whole time frame. Like the only positive thing to come of this, Matt, is Moaning Myrtle is now in a good mood. And that worries me because their secret bathroom, I feel, is going to being used because Moaning Myrtle's in a good mood, so she's not going to be haunting the place as much. She's not going to be flooding it. People are going to be okay going in there. Maybe it's temporary. Maybe she's just in a good mood seeing Hermione as a cat. I'd like to think that this just rejuvenates her soul and, she becomes the better ghost out of all of this. But they need a new hideout.
Well, the good news is their main purpose for using it right now was to make the Polyjuice potion.
Yeah.
And they made it through their month, and they got their Polyjuice potion.
Sure.
And so they don't need it for that anymore.
No.
Yeah.
That's true. But it was good that they had a place where they could all meet, even without, telling each other they were going to meet there. They knew that if something was going on, that was, this is ground zero,
Yeah.
So if it's occupied now, that's out the window.
Yeah, it wasn't. It actually worked out that way a couple times already. It's like, well, Harry was looking for Ron and Hermione. It's like, well, where might they be?
Exactly.
Oh, wait a minute,
Yep.
the bathroom.
Yep. So, but yeah, that's pretty much the chapters, man. We didn't move forward. We moved forward to the
take
reading.
Those 2 steps forward.
Yeah. We moved farther in the book and got 0 into the plot points. I'm more confused than when we started this whole thing.
Yeah.
Does Harry have Slytherin heritage? Is he the heir to Slytherin? We don't think Malfoy is anymore. Is Harry a dark wizard? Is that this?
It's gonna keep the series going.
Oh,
gonna keep you reading.
Goodness gracious! What's the Chamber of Secrets? We didn't even we didn't really talk about the Chamber of Secrets at all. It was mentioned, but
yep,
we don't know.
I did we found out about another secret chamber though.
Yeah,
I like how she used that phrase. Even
Yep. In the Malfoy's house, and I'm like,
yes,
I know more about that Chamber of Secrets than I do the one that the book is talking about. Unless that is the one the book's talking about, then it's just going to be this total swerve.
Yeah, but the Malfoys know about that one, so.
Yeah, I guess so. I don't know, man. I couldn't even begin to start predicting how this book is going to wrap up. I don't have a clue.
Don't worry. Everybody was in your position the first time through.
Okay.
And I'm pretty sure any theories they came up with were probably wrong.
I just don't see the through plot points at this point. It's just it's scattered all over.
It's all there though. That's the thing. When you get to the end, everything is there. It's being set up perfectly.
And I know that's gonna happen because it happened last book, and I just felt so stupid. And I'm trying to avoid that again, Matt. I don't want that to happen. I just don't see it. I need a couple more chapters. And then maybe I'll have some guesses. But
all right. Well, as I said, that's it for the chapters, right?
Mm-hmm. Yep, that's it.
All right. Well, we should probably get into the emails then.
Let's do it.
We do have 2 emails. First one, I believe, first-time writer here from Rhonda. Not entirely sure. This might be same Rhonda that answered our poll question tonight.
Oh, okay.
Hello, Matt and Josh. Just a quick note to tell you how much I enjoy Tales from Godric's Hollow, and Butterbeer Banter is off to a good start as well. Okay, she's going to call you out a little bit here.
Okay, fair enough. I deserve it.
I do miss Josh's creative off-the-cuff intros, though. The last few have been pretty basic.
Yeah.
Other than that, I can't think of anything to rag on you about. I listen to Mugglecast, Pottercast, the HP Lexicon podcast, Harry Potter and the Sacred Text, and that's not even all. But you guys are truly the freshest. Please don't stop, Josh. Not worried about Matt for some reason. Until you get through the whole series, at least. I'm so impressed at your self-control and not reading ahead. Stay strong, my good man.
I'm trying.
Matt, you're a great Harry Potter mentor. Keep up the good work.
Rhonda, I'm sorry I disappointed you at the beginning of this episode. I went very basic and stale and generic.
I thought about stopping you right after, and it's like, would you like to try that again?
And see, now I have to put thought into it. And I'm going to be over the top creative next week, and we're just going to steer the ship right into the side of a mountain. But hey, this is for you, Rhonda.
Sounds good.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Then our second email, as always, from our friend Atari Alex.
Buckle up.
Dear Josh and Matt, first off, thank you for your premiere episode of Butterbeer Banter and getting me to watch Mudbloods. I made my fiancée watch it with me, and she got into the drama of the World Cup more than I did. While I also enjoyed the film a lot, my main takeaway from the movie overall was a feeling of disappointment. As a recent college graduate myself, I'm disappointed that I didn't know about collegiate Quidditch, because I totally would have joined or started a team. But as they say, there's no point in dwelling in the past. I also found some things to nitpick naturally.
I'm going to stop you right there. Atari Alex, college doesn't have to be done. You could go back. You could go back for your master's. You could go back for other degrees. The college experience is waiting for you, my friend. Okay,
there you
that's
go.
it.
All right. Compared to the books, the focus of Muggle Quidditch seems to be much more on the chasers than the seekers. Now, to be fair, this could be because nearly every Quidditch match we see is from Harry's perspective, who plays Seeker. As we see in Mudbloods, however, the scoring with the Quaffle is so fast-paced, and the majority of the points are scored on the pitch, whereas the Snitch is initially more like a game of hide-and-seek and can be caught off the pitch, away from the eyes of the players, spectators, coaches, and referees. This brings me to my first question. If the Snitch is caught off the pitch, the game is then over. But the Seeker and the Snitch could be a considerable distance from the officials who have the power to end the game. Several points could be scored in the time between when the game should be over and the time they return to the pitch to signal others to stop playing. So how do they prevent this from happening?
That's on the Seeker's job to run back as fast as possible. Because once you have it, you have to stop it.
I think that's a very good point, actually. Yeah. I'm guessing it's probably written into the rules that, it's when the Seeker returns to the ref with the golden snitch or something like that.
I mean, the other alternative would be walkie-talkies with the Snitch and the referee, you know?
Well, yeah, and because we saw at least in the World Cup matches, that there was a Snitch referee.
Right.
And so that's something I was wondering too. Like they because when they mentioned that the Snitch could wander like all around campus, that was kind of their rule at UCLA when they had matches there. I kind of wonder for a World Cup match, they probably have slightly different rules, maybe.
Sure.
And maybe there's only so far they can go, and that Snitch referee, I don't know how close they stay to the Snitch the entire time, or how all that works. But
and there's also the thing of they do have to return back to the pitch after
exactly
a amount of time. So
and I kind of wonder how often the Seekers do go off the pitch looking for the Snitch.
Yeah, kind of seems like a waste of energy.
Yeah, they probably do sometimes, but it looked like from what we saw, at least, the vast majority of games ended with the Snitch being on the pitch and ending right there. So probably not something that happens too often, but I'm sure they thought about it.
That whole risk reward, like, do you send your Seeker out immediately to go find it, or do you hang back, try to score as many points as possible, and wait for the Snitch to come back and play the safe game?
Yeah. So the second point, the nerfing of the Snitch score. I understand your reasoning for why you think 150 points is too much, but I think it makes sense. Not only does it give teams a chance to come back from a huge point deficit, it also ensures that teams must have multiple areas of strength in order to be victorious. If a team has amazing chasers but a subpar Seeker, they can still lose if the opposing Seeker catches a Snitch early enough in the match. Conversely, if a team has a highly skilled Seeker but underwhelming chasers and keeper, the opposing team can outscore them with Quaffle and render the Snitch irrelevant. The Snitch serves as an equalizer, allowing for amazing comebacks and last-minute victories. Whether or not you think that's fair is a different matter, but I find that it makes the match more exciting.
Sure.
I think that's very good too.
Yeah.
And then he goes on. This was the optional part. He brings up Quidditch Through the Ages,
Okay.
which is a book I've mentioned a couple times. That dives into the history of Quidditch, which I haven't read in a couple years, to be honest. I I tend to read through the main series at least once a year, but the extra books I don't always hit them up.
Sure.
So it has been a couple years since I read through that, and I honestly didn't remember this, but I believe it. So, as for how many points are awarded for catching the snitch, J.K. Rowling tells us in Quidditch Through the Ages that this number is historical. Without going into too much detail, early versions of Quidditch lacked the snitch element to the game until one day someone released a golden snidget, a small, fast, gold-colored magical bird that they would hunt on brooms. Amongst the players, promising to give 150 galleons to the player who would capture it. The snidget aspect became a popular part of the game, and a position dedicated to obtaining the snidget was added to the teams, replacing the cash prize with 150 points for the team. As the game evolved, the snidget was replaced with the snitch, which was easier to control and was less cruel to the snidget. For that reason, then, he also supports the 150 point bonus of catching the snitch. I understand why Muggle Quidditch awards significantly fewer points for catching the snitch, since there's a time limit on the snitch's unlimited range, and a human is much easier to see than a tiny ball. Scores tend to be much lower, but I feel that 30 points is not enough of a reward for all the work the Seeker must do, and I think 30 points would rarely sway the outcome of a match, but that's just my two sickles.
So much to think about when it comes to Quidditch.
Yep. There's a lot of, and to think it's all made up.
Yeah.
But it's so like it like you say, there's a history behind the 150 points.
Right.
There's a reason for, like,
sure.
She wrote this whole other book that gives a history of this made up sport.
Right.
It's great.
And honestly,
Absolutely.
like if you were to show it to somebody who like was oblivious to Harry Potter and professional sports, and you just gave them this book and you told them all about it, and you kind of left out the fact that they were flying on brooms, like it would seem like it's a real thing.
Yeah.
I mean, there's so many details, and like everything is figured out to a T with Quidditch that to anybody it would seem like, hey, this is probably a real sport, you know?
Yeah.
Fascinating.
So we're almost done here.
Okay.
I've gone on long enough, so the only comment I'll make about the chapters at hand is that the image of baby mandrakes wearing socks and scarves
Yes.
is simultaneously adorable and slightly disturbing. I was also surprised to learn that mandrakes have feet in which to wear socks. Who knew? Before I sign off, I would like to make a suggestion. I think it might be a good idea to take a break in between every few books and do some supplemental Harry Potter reading. Fantastic Beasts and Where to Find Them, Quidditch Through the Ages, and Tales of Beetle Labard are short, entertaining, and enlightening, and in some ways even do an even better job of showing off J.K. Rowling's creativity and skill as a writer than the main series. As eager as I'm sure Josh will be to move on to the next books, I feel it might be beneficial to take a break from the action and intensity, particularly from the later books in the series, with some more lighthearted reading. That's just my suggestion, and I'm interested to hear what you think.
We talked about it before the show.
We did.
It could go either way at this point. I understand his point. I guess I am desperate to get through these to keep moving on. The faster I complete these, the more content I could consume after the fact.
Yep.
So that's encouraging. I can't really speak about how heavy the later books are. And whether or not like I'll need breaks in between.
Yeah.
So that's hard to say.
I mean, I will say, yes, they do get heavier. I know where he's coming from.
Mm-hmm.
And like, I appreciate the thought, but I like those books, in my opinion, would actually be better for Butterbeer Banter
Right.
than for the actual show, I think.
Sure.
And that's a big reason kind of why I like that you agreed to do the movies,
Mm-hmm.
is because I feel that is kind of our break.
Right.
Like,
absolutely.
Because it's not really new.
Mm-hmm.
It's a rehash of what we just covered in the past, 2-3 months, whatever it was, all in a 2-hour film. And like, yeah, we cover it, and we still have plenty to talk about because there's like differences and that sort of thing. But we're not necessarily taking in new information, and so that kind of gives us that break, I think, and kind of chops up the book.
For sure. And to be honest, as soon as we're done with this book, I'm watching the movie. Like, as soon as we record the podcast about the end of this book, I'm going to watch the movie. I'm not going to wait a week. So I will have a decent break between when I start the next book, even though we'll be recording, every week like we normally would. So I kind of don't want to break up the flow of the podcast. So I think that's where we're leaning. But I see both sides.
And this is something we can always change down the road.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously, the first 2 books are the shortest books, and so we're getting through them the fastest.
Sure.
And so, I mean, the third book is still kind of on par. It gets a little bit longer, but it's not really till we get to the 4th book, I feel, that it gets really long compared to these books.
Right.
And so, maybe after you spend a couple months in that 4th book, you might want some kind of a break, and we can accommodate that at that point. Yeah. But as of right now, I like you said, I think I like the flow of how things are going, and probably going to keep it that way.
Yeah. We'll cross that bridge when we get to it, though.
Yep.
And like Matt said, like I think we need to factor in those books in some way, shape, or form, whether that's in Butterbeer Banter episodes or after the fact or maybe sandwiched in between, who knows. But this is, I'm on this journey. I'm all in, so we'll make it happen.
Yep. We'll get all the content in here one way or another.
Absolutely. Is that our final email, Matt?
And that's it. That's all we got.
Thank you to everybody that wrote in. Thank you, everybody that replied to the poll on Twitter, or the question, I should say. Matt promises the return of the poll next week, so stay tuned for that. One thing before we wrap up here. Last week I talked about doing a giveaway for Lego Harry Potter collection on the PS4.
Yeah.
I still want to do that giveaway for the game. I've been thinking about it. I decided I do not want to do a Twitter giveaway with it. I do want to do it based on a review. So I need everybody to leave reviews on iTunes. You get to pick how many stars. I can't dictate that legally, contractually. I'm not allowed to tell you to give us 5 stars, although it's highly appreciated. No, all you have to do is leave a review. And be sure to leave your name in that review also. And then once you do, send an email over to talesfromgodricshollow@gmail.com and say, hey, this was my review. And you have, let's announce it next week.
Okay.
Let's do it next week. So you have a week to leave a review. If you've already left a review, you're already entered to win. If you do not own a PS4 or you don't play video games and you don't want it and you win, let us know. We could give it to somebody else. If you want to give it to somebody else, you could do that also. Whatever you want to do with it, just let us know. But if you've already left a review and you haven't won one of the giveaways, then you are already automatically entered to win. If you haven't left a review yet, you have a week to do so. Next week on the podcast, we will announce the winner. So be sure to have it in before next Monday, say 6 p.m. Pacific time.
Perfect.
So we'll go for that. You'll get the Lego Harry Potter collection on the PlayStation 4 the full game sent right to your doorstep. And you could play it before me, and you could tell me how it is, how much you like it.
So good.
With that being said, though, and we'll put it on Twitter too and remind people to go ahead and do that.
Oh, yeah.
So in case those of you that may not get to this podcast right away don't want to miss it, that will be the chance. So with that being said, we'll see you guys next week for chapters 13, 14? Or 12, 13?
13, 14.
13, 14. Whew. Had a moment there. When you review 2 chapters or recap 2 chapters, then review.
But we've done 2 every week, so you always got to end on an even number.
That's true. Next week, chapters 13 and 14 of Harry Potter and the Chamber of Secrets. I am Josh Brown. You can find me on Twitter at The Noise. Please be sure to follow the show on Twitter at Tales from GH. Again, that's where the Muggle polls happen. That's where the information for the giveaway will happen. And any changes or we may make to the recording schedule will be posted there. And if you just want to say hi, communicate with us, let us know how we're doing. We appreciate any and all comments over there for sure. And Matt, where can people find you at?
Now you can find me personally on Twitter at As a Matter of Matt, or you can reach me at the show at talesfromgodrichollow@gmail.com. That's where you will need to send your emails or your reviews. Once you leave them on iTunes, you send me an email over there. There we go. That's what we're going for.
Yeah.
What Josh said. Yeah.
Yep.
I will be reading those emails. Also, anything you want me to read on the show, any other comments you don't want Josh to see, it's a good place to send them.
Sure. I have a feeling that people have sent you emails that you're holding on until like the end of the book. That they're just like, you can't let Josh see this yet, but oh boy, we got to talk.
It's very possible.
People laughing about how wrong I am about something or someone or who knows what. That's the fun part about email boxes. It's full of all kinds of fascinating things.
It's the fun part about this podcast.
That's true. Again, we'll see you guys next week. Heads up, we may be pushing out the final episode of this book, or not the book, but the movie, a day or so. So be sure to check out the website, talesfromgodricshollow.com, for the full recording schedule over there. But until next week, Muggle out.
Mischief managed.